a couple of days ago. He basically shamed both of the hosts, asking, why in the hell are you bitching, quote unquote, about not having a wide receiver on this roster? We scored more than 30 plus points. Offense clearly wasn't our issue. Has to be a defensive focused draft wherever you land on the side of the aisle, whether or not that you are on the host of the WGR side or you are on Brandon Bean's side. It's still clear that Buffalo is looking for a specific trait in a wide receiver to add to the team. Because as many of us have already suggested, right now, Buffalo really only has 4 players that I think are shoo-ins to make this roster, right? You have Khalil Shakir, who is our slot guy, solid route runner, great yak. In fact, I want to say that he was the second most yak receiver in the NFL, which is something we should all celebrate. Stop sleeping on Khalil Shakir, a stud. We have Keon Coleman going into his second season. I'm very high on him. I know that people were upset that he didn't recover from his injury last year, but he still is our contested catch guy, right? And in contested catch situations throughout the vast majority of the season, he ended up fitting that mold for us. Yeah. So you have Josh Palmer as well, who we received from the LA Chargers. He is a tremendous route runner. He runs about a 4.5, 40, 4.4, something along those lines. He will be on the outside, and the ceiling is very high for this young wide receiver. And then, of course, Curtis Samuel. Whether or not that you are a Curtis Samuel fan or you want him off of this team, unfortunately, we are handcuffed to this man based off of contractual purposes. I am also holding on to hope that Curtis Samuel could potentially be our guy this year, and we can see a lot more of the later half of the season Curtis Samuel than we did at the beginning of the season. As we know, he was playing through a turf toe injury, and I think his production toward the back half of the season all but confirmed that. But afterwards, we have a lot of question marks, all right? I would not be able to go out and say that any other wide receiver that is currently on this roster is 100% without doubt going to make this team. And I feel like we have to have some conversations. And regardless of what Brandon Bean said on the radio, all but hours later, we saw that Elijah Moore was brought in for a free agent visit. And I just want to make sure that by the time that I'm doing this episode, that there hasn't been any update on this, because then we're going to have to transition the conversation entirely. Let me just double check real fast. Okay, I have not seen anything saying that we have ended up pulling the trigger on that wide receiver. So we still need somebody. Just for roster purposes, whether or not that we decide to go with 5, I have a feeling that we're going to have to go with 6. I think Laviska Shenault is going to beat out Codrington in the kick return sort of competition in training camp. But obviously, I'm speaking way too soon. Okay, I have to see how OTAs translate. Certainly have to do that. However, I think that if you guys have been watching me, I think that we have been targeting a specific trait in a wide receiver. And what we need is somebody that has lightning speed, that has experience on the outside, and somebody that has relative success in the NFL. And let me tell you what, the picks are slim, folks. It's slim pickings right now when it comes into potential wide receivers that we could bring in that, in my opinion, could fit the role that could really take this Buffalo Bills wide receiver room to the next level. Because like it or not, 4 quality starters is not enough. I still think that there is a little bit left to be desired. And I'm not even that guy that's coming out and saying that I need a big name, right? Like, I don't need to go out and make a big trade. I don't need to trade for Tyreek Hill, right? I don't need to trade for a star-studded wide receiver in a Jamison Williams. I would love that. Trust me. My God. All right. If you guys want to see me streak down the street in celebration, if somehow we could ultimately end up making a trade for Jamison Williams, sign me the hell up. But I'm not that picky. All I need is somebody that runs a sub 4.40, 4.38, 4.39, and somebody that has experience off to the outside. So what I wanted to do today is pull out exactly what wide receivers are actually still available in free agency. And I got to tell you what, all right, none of these names are probably going to excite us very much. And we're going to go name by name, and I'm going to say whether or not that I think that we could potentially bring them in on a reasonable contract, whether or not that they fit that bill of traits that I think that Buffalo is currently looking for. And yeah, that's going to be it. Folks, as you know, on each and every single episode of the Don Mafia Report, I discuss the topic at hand for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then afterwards, for the remainder of the episode, I allow my live chat audience to take control of the conversation. So if, for example, that you are watching the replay of this episode and or you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I highly recommend that you come find me on YouTube. And when you subscribe, make sure you turn on bell notifications so you could be a part of my live Q&A segment each and every single episode. First wide receiver is Keenan Allen. I've seen a couple of people throw that name out there potentially. He is still a pending free agent. He is 33 years old. He's not very fast, right? He's a solid route runner, has a bit of an injury history, and I wouldn't think that this would be a fit because really where we're looking at, and granted his market value is sitting at around $11 million per year. I don't think that he would get there. He is still looking for an organization to play for. I think that whatever team ends up signing him, I think that he'll probably be closer to around the 7 or 8 mark per year, more than likely a 1-year contract, certainly not a 2. I don't think that this fits the archetype of what Buffalo is looking for. I think a Keenan Allen, while he dominates out of the slot position, I just don't necessarily see that coming into fruition here. Maybe if Brandon Beane wants to add a true veteran presence, somebody to be like a safety blanket / an insurance policy, perhaps, but he's pretty low as far as where I am looking at. I feel like he doesn't bring enough to the table, and a lot of the traits that he brings to an NFL team would be redundant from the Buffalo Bills side of things. So I'm going to have to say no to Keenan Allen, but of course, moving on. Next up, you have Amari Cooper, who I feel like was a massive disappointment last year. It did suck because when we traded for him, he obviously needed a couple of weeks to ramp up. And then as soon as when I thought that he was going to ramp up entirely, he ends up getting hurt in Seattle. News came out that he probably should have had season-ending surgery, after the injury that he sustained in Seattle, but he elected to keep playing because he wanted to be a team player. Some great plays, especially that one against San Francisco where he was completely just backhanded by himself and caught that highlight reel of the catch in the end zone. I will never forget that. And the second that we brought him in, I was feeling real good because we had a route runner that could win regularly against whoever he lined up against. He's still removed from a couple of seasons away of being dominant. Last time he was truly dominant was when Joe Flacco was the quarterback over in Cleveland. I still think he has it in him, but do remember he's 30 years old. He's about to be 31 when the season begins. He's still looking for a team. While I like him better than Keenan Allen, I would kind of want this to be a last resort type pick. He's probably still going to be relatively expensive, although that it doesn't seem like a lot of teams are really going out there trying to give him a crazy contract. Spot Track has him at around $19 million per year, but I don't think he'll get really so I'd say close to that, or really anywhere near that. I'd say probably closer to around $8 to $9 million, 1-year contract, perhaps 2, depending on whether an NFL team likes the way that his medicals are looking. I haven't even heard that he has been brought in for a visit to Buffalo. Next up, who I think that a lot of us have already heard that is visiting the Buffalo Bills, that visited about 2 days ago, is probably my favorite realistic target, and that's going to have to be Elijah Moore. What's attractive about this prospect is that he runs the sub 4.40, 4.35 coming out of college. He's still 25 years old. He just turned 25. So, on paper, he's still technically in his athletic prime. He has spent 50% on the outside and 50% out of the slot his entire career. So the versatility is there. We can put him on the outside. He has great tape on the outside and in the slot. The problem with Elijah Moore is that he never really had a quality offense and then also a quarterback throwing him the football. His first couple of years over in New York, as we know, it was the Zach Wilson show. It was the carousel of QBs that were behind him. So I'm really not going to blame him for his first couple of years in New York. And then over in Cleveland, while Deshaun Watson had one of his worst seasons last year prior to missing out, then they ended up having that carousel of quarterbacks as well. So in Elijah Moore, it's not so much Elijah. It's more so who is throwing him the football, who is the offensive coordinator. I think that he would probably be the perfect fit. And get this, he probably wouldn't cost a lot of money. His market value right now is sitting at around $4.5 million. That could be a solid boom and or bust pick for the Buffalo Bills as far as affordability. So I think those are the only three names that are really out there for me. Like, yes, of course, you have Nelson Aguilar, who is a free agent. I'm sorry, but I'm going to pass. Same thing with DJ Chark. He also is a pending free agent. And that right there is really the only names that are standing out. Maybe say that you wanted a reunion with Jamison Crowder or Deontay Hardy. I'm probably going to pass on that. Have Allen Robinson, who I keep forgetting is in the NFL in the first place. So pickings are slim right in this department. So I think the only thing that makes sense is you bring in Elijah Moore as that fifth guy. Maybe make a trade for Jamo Williams, which I think all of us would be thrilled with, but is Brandon Beane going to pull the trigger there? He is looking for a contract. We would be able to have him cheap on this final year and then revisit it in the following offseason. And last case or last ditch effort is, say, for example, we end up running into any sort of injury in 2025. Then we just go back to the trade deadline and we end up making a move then. So a lot of question marks, a lot of question marks regarding this team. Will Buffalo make a move? I think all signs are pointing into that direction. However, let's go ahead and move over to the chat and see exactly what they think about it. Now, folks, as a reminder, so it's easier for me to decipher between questions and, of course, statements. Please do me a favor and label each and every single submission with a Q dash and or a statement. So I can go on ahead and I can make the listening experience for anybody that is watching the replay of this episode or anybody that is listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts a good experience. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. As Jesse comes in, I think it's obvious no matter who they get, it's Kincaid that needs to step up if they want to continue to be a 30-point per game team, maybe a midseason trade if they really needed it to. Yeah, you know what? I feel like he's a name that is often forgotten, right? And I feel like people have given up on Dalton Kincaid. Like some people that I think that love to get into those knee-jerk reactions have already said that Dalton Kincaid is a bust. I think context is important. I do think that his rookie season was very impressive. I do think that he was overshadowed by a couple of rookie tight ends that year where they really implemented that young man right into the offense. He looked good. On tape, you saw him regularly winning his matchups. He's still a solid route runner. He does have great hands. And then last year, on top of the clear chemistry issue between him and Josh Allen, and then also as he was playing with a knee injury toward the back half of the season as well, I'm not so much the guy that's going to be freaking out about Dalton Kincaid. In fact, I think, and the more and more that I think about it, the more and more that I'm warming up to the fact, I think by the time the season is over with, I have a feeling that he might actually be second on the team as far as receiving yards. That's me hoping. And as Jesse has pointed out, I think the more and more that this goes, I think that we probably will ride with this first team, right? With this current selection. Maybe some training camp sweethearts impress us in training camp and Buffalo runs with this squad. I don't think, like, one of the biggest misconceptions is that, like, when I say, hey, listen, I wanted a vertical guy, I wanted a sub 4-4 guy on this squad, I think people mistake that for me saying, if we don't get that, then Buffalo is doomed. Hell no. I still have this team winning 13 plus games. I still see this team picking up exactly where they left off. However, it's still nice to add additions. It's still nice to have insurance policies because as we all salivate over rosters, folks, like all of us are salivating over rosters and we love it. We're like, oh my God, look, we have this guy, we have that guy, we have that guy, we have this guy. Injuries happen. Injuries happen each and every single year, and oftentimes in position groups that we do not want them to, that play a massive role and acts as a domino effect, a butterfly effect of how things work out. Depth for me is important, right? I think when I look at the defense, what haunted me was our lack of depth. There was such a significant drop-off from especially in the secondary, which was addressed during the draft and in free agency. I'm happy about that. Same thing with defensive line, right? we addressed all of that. But now we have a depth issue at the wide receiver position. That's kind of my thought. We have my boy Kevin came in. Where in the world are you? LMAO. I am in a hotel room. I am out of town for the week. I get back on Friday. Shout out to the Marriott. I probably would have suggested a different wallpaper, but I think it's books or something. Yep, it's books. It's books behind me. But yes, I am in a hotel room right now. I am out of town, and so I'm on a little business. You know what I mean? No Bones About It has come in and saying we have the most important fan base in the league, and Kincaid had a record-breaking rookie season and one down year. Keon was statistically on pace with all other rookies receivers before his wrist. It's funny because the wide receiver that he's typically compared with, right, is Xavier Worthy, because he was selected after the Buffalo Bills traded down, that whole story. But you look at their statistics as far as development in their rookie season, and they were quite literally on pace for the exact same season if Keon Coleman didn't go down with an injury and missed about 3 to 4 games. And I'm sure that we ultimately ended up seeing that interview with him that's been going around the internet for the past couple of days, where he said, I came back from injury, and it seemed like the Buffalo Bills had to make a transition and adjust as I was out, and they didn't want to make that adjustment back to me getting a lot of targets because what they were doing worked. But yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to see. Kevin has come in. J-Mo Williams will not cost that much as a rental. It either an asset or a cap. Kevin, that right there is my dream. It's my dream, right? Will Bean do it, though? Rumors have been circulating that Detroit does want to move him, right? And so I believe that a bit more than Jordan Addison. But so I wonder if he would be okay with just having a 1-year rental. Why not, right? But say that we can make some sort of trade like that, then yeah, trust me, sign me up. I'm going to go on ahead and book my parade tickets. Justin has come in. What are some wide receivers that are on their last year of their contract that could be trade candidates to the Bills right before the trade deadline, like Coop last year? So one of the only, it's tough, right? Because I do feel that, so you also need to account for teams giving you signs throughout the season, like them having a specific star that for some reason their production has fallen off of a cliff or their utilization has fallen off of a cliff. Sometimes I think we also need to look at what teams were expected to do well in 2025, but just absolutely sucked. I think those are where the targets really start to show themselves. Right now, in this time, so the only wide receiver candidate that makes a lot of sense for me that's on the trade block is J-Mo Williams, right? I don't think we're going for Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't want Tyreek Hill on this roster. I feel like he brings a lot of negative energy right to the front office based off of his previous off-field issues. But yeah, so I think in this time of day, it's just J-Mo, but things could change. Things could absolutely change, man. And they are vinyl records behind you. Thank you, bro. Yeah, I see it. We have the white stripes. Interesting, man. Shout out to the Marriott. Okay. Question. How many targets did Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins have? And you think our third wide receiver is Palmer is going to have that many targets. So how many targets would Moore to actually get? So Cooper didn't have a lot, right? Because he was being implemented right into the offense when he was traded. And then as soon as when I think he was fully ramped up, that's when he ultimately ended up getting hurt. So for the Bills, he only had 20 receptions, right? Just 20 receptions. And then Mac Hollins, let me see what he got. Mac Hollins had 31 receptions for 378 yards. So that production needs to go somewhere. One would assume, say that we roll with this squad, that so the Amari Cooper and especially the Mac Hollins production is probably 75% of the time going to go on paper to Josh Palmer. Maybe Curtis Samuel, right? Because Curtis Samuel did start looking a little better. He was playing through a turf toe last year. I'm still holding on to hope because I was high on the signing. I hope that he can be that guy. But yeah, so I think that Khalil Shakir is probably still going to be our key guy right there. And so I think that Josh Palmer, I don't know, like he's typically like a 300, 400 like receiving yard type guy. Like he was wide receiver 3 right over at the LA Chargers. Would be tough for me to think that Buffalo automatically makes him a wide receiver 1, but we shall see. A ton for 2026. We have Scary Terry, you have Sutton, you have Drake London, Williams, Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Evans, Kirk. Look at that, man. All of the potential guys that could go out for a trade if their teams start to suck. Scary Terry would be nice. Scary Terry would indeed be nice, my friend. Statement. Wouldn't mind Elijah Moore and maybe sign safety Justin Simmons for a bargain contract. So I look at the safety room, and so I was kind of shocked that we didn't go after a safety right in this draft. And I do understand that one of the corners that we selected is sort of a Cam Lewis replacement or a Cam Lewis type player. But I was still shocked that we didn't go for like an actual safety because like where it's at right now, like Cole Bishop is the only one that is under contract in 2026 because everybody else is a pending free agent, right? Like you have Rapp, you have Forrest, you have Tamar Hamlin. All those dudes are gone. Hancock could be interesting, right? But I think he's going to be more of a Cam Lewis type utility secondary player. Love that guy, but still was pretty shocked. I'm not sure if Buffalo goes for Simmons. I think that if we make any sort of free agency move last minute that's somewhat relative of a big name, it would probably be more of the Elijah Moores of the world. Like, so we're all manifesting for a Jameson Williams trade, but let's be honest with ourselves. An Elijah Moore signing is a hell of a lot more realistic, basically, of how we look at. Oh, Rapp has 2 years left. My bad. Why are you Bills fan, Dan? So we can block this 12-year-old. Mods, please just get rid of this person. Him, her, whatever. We can go on ahead and we can block that person. She just annoys me. Kevin. Rapp has 2 in. What are the odds of Trey moving over to safety? So I suppose anything could happen, but I kind of have a funny feeling. That he's just going to be a corner right on the outside as depth from there. And so I've never really bought into like any of those rumors of, oh, so-and-so is going to move over to safety. I suppose it makes more sense because Christian Benford was a part of those conversations a couple of years ago. But again, if like you are stellar at the cornerback position, why would you move somebody over to safety? I feel like Trey fits that mold a bit more. Maybe, but right where it stands, highly doubtful. And so Elijah Moore is not bad at all. I know. We have Mikey. Hot take, maybe, but why not bring in Bond and just see how the legal system pans out, man? Look, he's a good player, right? Like, he's a good player. So I think Buffalo definitely took a shot at taking in Max Hairston with allegations already, right? So maybe they didn't want to double dip there, right? Like maybe they thought that that was just a bad look. I think most NFL teams are thinking that way. And maybe Max Hairston's facts of what actually happened didn't seem nearly as scary, right, as into what Isaiah Bonds looked like. I'm interested to see where Bond ends up. Not Bills related, but what the hell are the Texans doing with their offensive line? Shocking for me, right? Like shocking for me. That was their biggest issue last year, was keeping CJ Stroud safe and giving him time to find all of these wide receivers. And what do they do? They go out there and they just double dip at the positions that was not their Achilles heel in the first place. So I'm really not sure how confident like we feel right in the Jacksonville Jaguars, but say that CJ Stroud is still on his ass. Don't be surprised if Jacksonville steals that first place in the AFC South. Yeah, was kind of wondering why a Dolphins fan thinks they have a room to talk in here. It's just like, look, like back in the day, I did welcome trolls in here, especially during some of my live play-by-play reactions, but it ruins the listening experience. It ruins the experience for people that want to come in here and like talk ball and act like an adult. So I put my foot down on some children with mommy's iPad. Question: what if y'all's season doesn't pan out the way that y'all hope? What then? We have Tiny coming on in. I mean, so I feel like when it comes into Bills fans, so I feel like we're all too familiar with our season not panning out the way that it did, right? So do I think that Sean McDermott slash Bean would be fired? No. Like we would need to have an absolutely awful season. So I'm talking we would need to like finish below 500 and have like an absolute stinker rate of a season. And that would have to be Josh Allen staying healthy the entire season for it. So I feel like we would just have to go back to the drawing board. And so I don't think that there would be like really any significant change. Like say that Buffalo got to the playoffs and we got first rounded, for example, which I'm not entirely confident that that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't know. Frank is coming. Keenan Allen. We have Dexy Gaming. Dan, and so our wide receiver room, if we get more, 1 Khalil Shakir, 2 Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman, you have Elijah Moore, 5 Curtis Samuel, 6 Laviska Shenault, 7 Shavers, 8 you have the Caden Prather, 9 KJ Hamler, and Jalen Virgil. Interesting. We have Inception 877. So are you worried that you're not getting Josh better weapons, that the Bills are missing opportunities to win a Super Bowl with Josh? And Josh can make anything happen, but I'm concerned about the overall reliance. So I do agree with being right to a point where when your team's scoring 30 plus points per game, but then again, like you were allowing 30 points to the Kansas City Chiefs that only scored 30 points, like twice last year? Or say, for example, like you like let the Rams score 44 plus on you, like had the Detroit Lions like score 40 plus points on you. I do feel that it's not the end of the world. It's more so like me and to my buddy Jesse. Like he said, wow, like Dan's over here bitching because he got a steak and he didn't get the Kobe steak. That's kind of where I'm at right now, right? Like what I'm being is spoiled. So I got an Xbox for Christmas, like the top of the line Xbox, but I'm pissed because I didn't get the PS5. That's kind of where I'm at, right? It's still productive. It's still quality. It's still where it's at. But yeah. So I feel like we'll be okay. We have Jared H. If we scored the highest in the league again, and do you think Joe Brady will take a coaching job after this next season? That is a great question. Like, dude, so I feel like we dodged the bullet. So this year with Joe Brady. And so I'm really surprised that he did not get a head coaching job. But no, I feel like next year, say that he has very similar success, he's probably gone. He's probably gone, man. Like 2 years of quality production, like say that he like rings off like 9-10 games at 30 plus points, especially with this wide receiver room again, then yeah, forget about it. So are you worried about the Jets, Pats, or Dolphins this year, or not concerned because the Bears, Vikings, and Lions have become something to worry about for me? So first off, I do want to say that the NFC North is anybody's game as far as who could potentially win that division. I really, really like what Chicago did this offseason. And don't make the mistake of looking at like a team's letters and say, oh, like they're the Bears. Of course, they're going to screw it up. I really think that Caleb Williams is going to live up to the first overall hype next year. I really do. Maybe I don't go as far as saying MVP conversation, but if, for example, that he truly was the first overall pick and he does live up to that hype, what they did for him on that offensive line, then adding a Luther Burden out of the slot, you have a DJ Moore, still have Rome Odunze on the outside, completely fixed up offensive line by itself. Maybe some holes in defense that are still there, but just watch out for the Chicago Bears this year. So as far as our division, no, not at all. So I see the New York Jets are probably going to be right in their first year of said rebuild, and I do think that Aaron Glenn is going to gut this team next year because he wants to be able to get his guys in, his personnel in. This is going to be largely a reset year for them. Maybe Justin Fields does surprise some people, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Same thing with the Miami Dolphins. Like, shit offensive line. Have Tyreek Hill does not want to be there. You have Jalen Ramsey is going to be out there. Tua, again, is being placed behind one of the worst offensive lines all in ball. Don't really see a lot of success for Miami this year. And as far as the Patriots, so I do have them winning 10-plus games. 10-plus games for the New England Patriots. And so I have a lot of respect for Vrabel. And so they knocked the draft out of the park. Solid free agency as well. And so the Patriots will be good, but still a far cry from Buffalo. Still a far cry from Buffalo. Let me see. Nah. And so the Bills don't need to be scared of anybody in their division. And so the Patriots maybe, but the Jets and the Dolphins are massively overrated. I wouldn't even call them overrated. I just think they're absolutely terrible. All right, we have Carl. It's just a theory. Maybe if things don't go well next season, we fired McDermott and we promote Joe Brady as our new head coach. Look, say, for example, that Buffalo gets smacked by the Chiefs again right in the AFC Championship or in the divisional, for example. Every single person in Western New York is going to probably try and organize a protest. And if you were to ask everybody, right, if Sean McDermott should be fired, I guarantee you about 75% of people would say yes. I don't think the owners would do it. I think the only way Sean McDermott gets fired this year is if Buffalo, say we finish below 500 with Josh Allen being injured. Knock on wood. I'm not wishing that, but that would be the only way that I could see that happening. All right. So the narrative for Caleb being a bust in his first year was weird to me. So many high expectations for quarterbacks coming in year one, like Josh Allen's first few years, just trust the process. That, and he had a shit offensive line, and he takes care of the football. And that's one of the most important things you could ask from a rookie quarterback. Very limited turnovers, right? We'll see. With Ben Johnson as their head coach, I have a feeling the Bears are the Cinderella story this year. Really, on paper, they should be good. But just because your team is good on paper does not mean that you will be good. But on paper, they really have no excuse not to be an 11-win-plus team this year. They have zero excuse. I have seen this time and time again. Like the Jets, for example, for the past couple of years. On paper, the Jets should have been world beaters, but they weren't. So let's see how the season comes up. And I agree. And so Elijah Moore could come in and most likely do better than he has with the quarterbacks he's had until now. Yeah, it's definitely a high ceiling for me statement. And so do you actually think that Aaron Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh? If he does, and how do they do this with Mike Tomlin? If not, I don't think they get nowhere. So I have a pretty good gut feeling that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign. So with the Pittsburgh Steelers, largely because why would they wait until the 5th round to grab Will Howard as their QB1 in the future? There's no way. Because honestly, man, Mike Tomlin feels the heat right on his seat, right? Yes, he's a Super Bowl champion, but I think the city of Pittsburgh is starting to get more and more frustrated that he's a basement floor 9-8 kind of guy, but that's typically where he is. I don't think that they would have passed on a quarterback right in this draft without them knowing something that the public does not know, right? Yes, public facing, we're hearing that Aaron Rodgers is not close to a decision, but logically, I don't think that Pittsburgh would have passed on a QB unless they knew at least a 90% likelihood that Aaron Rodgers was ultimately going to sign. So yes, I do think that Aaron Rodgers will sign. And say that they don't go anywhere, never sleep. Never sleep on our boy Mike Tomlin, because you know his worst season, bare minimum, is 9-8. Dan, so the 2026 wide receiver class looks stacked, and we will be fine until then. A lot of guys I like for our Buffalo Bills. Wow, we already have guys looking at the 2025 draft class. I can appreciate that statement. I just think what the Bears would do with the Bills' offensive line and Josh Allen as QB, they would destroy the league. Absolutely. And so y'all are about to end up with Kadarius Toney. Oh, dude. No, dude. He's a rapper now. Hey, Dan. We want to trade Josh Allen for Travis Hunter. No. Come on. Come on. So I thought they did draft a quarterback. They did, but Will Howard later on. Like, maybe he's good. Like, maybe he's a Cinderella story. But at the end of the day, I'm not so much there. I am not so much there. But, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Don Mafia Report. I'm starving. I'm going to go grab myself some breakfast down in the city for a tad. Have no fear. I will be back in my regular setup on Friday. I will be live later on 4th and Forever. And then tonight is the episode of the AFC East Roundtable, in which I think you guys have been really looking forward to. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love each and every single one of you. And just make sure you like and subscribe. See you soon.